So let me share the screen with you so we can recite the pranam mantras together. As I mentioned, it will be nice if all of us can memorize the pranam mantras by the time we finish the 18 days. So you can recite with me, but just stay on mute so that everybody can hear the recitation. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupah Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Deenabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Taptakanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Vancha kalpadarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Nama om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swamin iti namine. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschat Veshatarine. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Mukam karoti vachalam pangum langayate giram yat kripa tamaham vande Shri Gurum Dinatarinam Paramananda Madhavam Shri Chaitanya Ishwaram. So the name Dhritarashtra means one who usurps another person's property or land. The word usurps means to take by force. Rashtra, Dhritarashtra. He's so hell-bent on permanently occupying land that does not belong to him. So Dhritarashtra actually represents all of our material desires. We have so many motivations to chase things that may not necessarily belong to us. Sanskrit is such a beautiful language that each word has layers of meanings. So even one word can be split into different ways, and different meanings are derived out of even a single word. There's one such meaning of the word Dhritarashtra. One meaning of the word Duryodhana means someone who fights dirty, someone who uses unscrupulous means to get what they want. So if Dhritarashtra represents material desires, Duryodhana represents material actions. So we act based on desires. Everything begins with a desire in the mind, and then it is actually put into action in order for us to experience that particular desire or the results of that desire. So which means material motivations give birth to material actions. And we read in chapter 1, in one of the slides, that material actions will ultimately lead to defeat, disappointment, and frustration. So when we did the 6 sessions on the secrets of the Gita revealed, we talked about the fact that how each one of us is actually searching for happiness. All of us are chasing happiness. And one such example we discussed yesterday after the class was the fact that If we have a job and we have applied for other jobs and we have multiple job offers in our hands, where each company is promising you a very high pay hike or CTC, one of the motivations for us for accepting that better job offer is the compensation. We think if I have more money, I can fulfill more obligations that I have, or I can fulfill more of my material desires. And we also discussed when we come across situations like this, where it is not necessarily easy to make decisions, what is the lens with which we should assess the situation and then arrive at an appropriate conclusion. If you remember, also one of the slides from yesterday's class was that, all of us are going to face problems. There is not a single person on this earth who's not had distress. Similarly, there's not a single person who would not have experienced some level of happiness. So which means these ups and downs are just a part of life. And in chapter 2, we will discover how Krishna is encouraging Arjuna by saying, yes, I know you are in a difficult situation. I know this is a difficult decision for you to make. I know on the other side is your guru, on the other side are your relatives. Sometimes we just have to make very difficult decisions. I hope none of us have to face such kind of difficulty. But this is very unusual, where you have to fight your own family members and perhaps kill them to set things right. So Lord Krishna is very interested in dharma. So you would have heard me mentioning in the Secrets of Gita Revealed that in the entire Bhagavad Gita, Krishna doesn't focus on karma much. He repeatedly talks about dharma. Dharma means what is our duties, prescribed duties and responsibilities, not duties and responsibilities that you decide on your own what your duties and responsibilities are. See, even that Shastra says we should follow what the Shastras ask us to do. So the Shastras ask us to do certain things. The Shastras also ask us to avoid certain things. So our duties and responsibilities are a sum total of do's and don'ts. These do's and don'ts come from the Vedic scriptures. So Krishna is very particular, very, very particular in the Bhagavad Gita, where he emphasizes that each one of us have to perform our duties, prescribed duties and responsibilities. So how does one discover one's prescribed duties and responsibilities? It's based on varnashram. There are 4 varnas and there are 4 ashrams. Based on the combination of this varna ashram, you decide what your duties and responsibilities. Rather, I shouldn't say you decide what the duties and responsibilities are. We have to follow the Shastras, instructions for us on duties and responsibilities. So unless we are studying the Shastras, how do you know what your duties and responsibilities are? It's not what your chacha tells you or what your brother tells you or your sister tells you or your grandmother tells you. It's what Shastras tell you. It's what Guru tells you. So if we are all searching for happiness, real happiness lies in understanding what our purpose in life is. Yes, we have to take care of ourselves. We have to take care of our family. We have to take care of society. We do have duties and responsibilities on the bodily platform. But we discussed yesterday that our vision has to be broadened. So spirituality is an essential component of our life. We cannot disregard it. That's what Krishna is going to tell Arjuna today. That we have 2 types of duties. one on the bodily platform and one on the spiritual platform. We have to do both side by side and learn how to balance the two. So to be truly happy, ultimately Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, you have to invite me into your life, which means Krishna is saying, am I a part of your life or not? Or you only come to me when you want something? You only remember me when you want something? So Krishna educates Arjuna throughout the Bhagavad Gita, specifically in the Bhakti Yoga chapters, which is the middle 6 chapters. It is important for us to have Krishna in our life on a daily basis. It is important for us to have a relationship with Krishna. That relationship with Krishna is the top priority. That was the 4th duty that Adi Shankaracharya talks about in verse 7 of the Gita Mahatmya. If at all there is one duty that is most important to you, it is the duty of loving Krishna. So that's the relationship that should be first and foremost in each one of our lives. After that comes family relationships. If your relationship with Krishna is in a mood of service, then automatically you will serve your family very nicely. So when Arjuna realizes he has to kill his own family members, he begins to question life. Who am I? What am I doing? So this is the turning point for Arjuna. We said, why is a great warrior who has fought so many battles previously and won them suddenly filled with so many doubts? He is having a crisis of faith. So every once in a while, Krishna will knock on your door and send some difficulties your way to remind you, you have to do something better. So these are called our wake-up call moments. They are like alarms ringing. What are you going to do? Are you going to ignore the alarm? Are you going to hit the snooze button and sleep some more? Or are you going to get up and wake up and understand that something is going on here that you should be alert to? So every once in a while, we'll experience difficulties, and it's an alarm clock for us. It's a wake-up call for us. So this is the alarm bells ringing for Arjuna, this difficult decision he needs to make. So definitely when we face dilemmas, we have to begin to ask questions. The right questions. Not, okay, the questions may begin with why me? But ultimately it leads to the understanding that why not me? Krishna has given me the intelligence to handle the situation. So why should I not use that intelligence to handle the situation to the best of my ability and take a decision and move on? So it's only when we actually begin to question life that we begin our spiritual journey. So today's chapter is titled Sankhya Yoga. And Srila Prabhupada summarizes the chapter title as the content of the Gita summarized. Technically speaking, Sankhya Yoga, the word Sankhya means to count. Sankhya Yoga means an analytical study of matter and spirit. What's the difference between matter and spirit? So in this particular chapter, Krishna is going to use logic to help Arjuna come to the right decision. So I'm going to read a few shlokas and then we'll begin the chapter. So chapter 2 begins with Sanjaya speaking. Sanjaya vacha tam tata kripaya vishtam Ashrupurna kulekshanam vishidantam midam vakyam uvacha Madhusudanaha. What is Sanjaya saying? Sanjaya said, seeing Arjuna full of compassion, his mind depressed, his eyes full of tears, Madhusudana Krishna spoke the following words. So Krishna says, Shri Bhagavanuvacha Kutastva Kashmalamidam Vishame Samupastitam Anarya Jushtamasvargyam Akirtikaram Arjuna. It's the first words from Lord Krishna. Although in chapter 1, Lord Krishna has spoken very briefly saying, behold the army, Arjuna, behold the Kurus. What is Krishna telling Arjuna? My dear Arjuna, how have these impurities come upon you? They are not at all befitting a man who knows the value of life. They lead not to higher planets, but to infamy. So Krishna is giving a warning to Arjuna upfront. He's telling him, the way you're talking, you think people will praise you for the way you're talking? They will see it as a sign of weakness. You are a great warrior, but you're certainly not talking like a warrior on the battlefield. So your entire reputation is going to get destroyed if you continue down this path. There is a pastime in the Mahabharata when Karna hurts Yudhishthira on the battlefield. Yudhishthira comes back to the camp so that he can get medical care and attention. Meanwhile, Arjuna is on the battlefield fighting, and suddenly he realizes Yudhishthira is not there. Being anxious about the condition of his older brother, he leaves the battlefield and goes to check on what is the condition of Yudhishthira. So he comes to the camp, and Yudhishthira Maharaj is very happy to see Arjuna. He asks him, have you killed Karna? Karna who attacked me, have you killed him? And Arjuna says, no, I came to check on your well-being. And Yudhishthira gets very upset with Arjuna. He gets furious. He chastises his younger brother and tells him, you're not fit to be a warrior. You're better off throwing away your Gandiva. Now Arjuna had taken a vow. Whoever ever dares to tell him to put down his bow and arrow, he had taken a vow to kill that person. So now Arjuna was in a difficult situation. He had taken a vow that whoever insults him like this, he has to kill him. So he picks up a sword, ready to kill his own brother Yudhishthira. And at that time, Krishna steps in. And what does Lord Krishna say? He comes to the rescue of Arjuna and he says, my dear Arjuna, do you know, for a Kshatriya, dishonor is worse than defeat. Dishonor is worse than defeat, which means insulting a Kshatriya is as good as defeating them. And therefore, at the instructions of Lord Krishna, Arjuna insults his older brother, Yudhishthira. And then immediately he falls at his lotus feet and says, please forgive me. Krishna is warning Arjuna here. The way Arjuna is speaking is very unbecoming of a Kshatriya. Fighters don't speak like, oh, so many sins I'm going to incur, so much killing I have to do, what's going to happen in the future. you know. So Krishna is saying they lead not to higher planets, but to infamy. So he's warning Arjuna, don't speak like this. This is not Kshatriya language at all. So Krishna continues, Klaibyam asmagamah partha naitat tvayupapadyate kshudram hridaya daurpalyam kyakto tishtaparantapa. What is Krishna saying? O son of Pritha, do not yield to this degrading impotence. Krishna is saying, you're exhibiting great weakness, impotence. And then Krishna is saying, it does not become you. Give up such petty weakness of heart and arise, O chastiser of the enemy. So on the one hand, Krishna is giving him warnings. On the other hand, he's encouraging him by telling him, you're a great warrior. Parantapa, you've defeated so many great warriors. Remember that. Remember your own strength. Remember your capabilities. Do not suddenly become weak like this. So Krishna is being quite harsh with Arjuna here. He's not saying, oh, you're feeling bad. No, Krishna is very strict with Arjuna. You will see the relationship change here shortly. So how is Arjuna responding to Krishna's advice and chastisement? Katham bhishmamaham sankhe dronan chamadusudana ishubhif pratiyotsyami pujarha varisudana. Arjuna is not backing down anytime soon. He is getting ready to counter Krishna's points. Arjuna is saying, O killer of enemies, O killer of Madhu, you yourself have killed in the past. How can I counterattack with arrows in battle men like Bhishma and Drona who are worthy of my worship? So Arjuna is arguing with Krishna here. He's telling Krishna, these personalities, I should fall at their lotus feet. I should be worshipping them. But how am I expected to actually take an arrow and kill them? Arjuna is asking, have you been in a similar situation where you have killed your guru? Where you've had to kill your grandfather? Sometimes we always think our situation is so unique. And therefore we argue our situation is so unique. That means the problem is so unique. The solution is just not available. I was hearing one preacher saying that, never go to a pessimist and discuss problems with them or discuss solutions with them. Because for every solution you give, they will find a problem in the solution itself. So never approach pessimists for a solution because they will find problems in solutions. I thought that was very instructive. When we seek advice from others, we should be careful who we go to. And Arjuna continues, Guru nahatva hi mahanubhavan shreyo bhoktum bhaikshyamapi haloke hatvarta kamamstu guru nihaiva bhunjiya bhogan rudira pradigdan. Arjuna is saying, it would be better to live in this world by begging than to live at the cost of the lives of great souls who are my teachers. Even though desiring worldly gain, they are superiors. If they are killed, everything we enjoy will be tainted with blood. So Arjuna is now talking something that is very, very unusual for a Kshatriya to do. We talked about 4 varnas and 4 ashramas. So the 4 varnas, Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Shudra. Of these 4, the only varna that is authorized to beg for a living is the Brahmana. Kshatriya is not authorized to beg for a living. Vaishya is not authorized to beg for a living. Shudra is not authorized to beg for a living. Of the 4 varnas, the only varna that is allowed to beg for alms and depend on others for their own basic livelihood is the Brahmanas. That means Arjuna is talking like a Brahmana, but he's not one. Similarly, if you look at the ashrams, the Brahmachari ashram, the Grihastha ashram, the Vanaprastha ashram, and the Sannyas ashram. The Grihastha ashram is not allowed to beg for a living. Brahmachari, yes. Bhavatu bhiksham dehi. You collect the alms and then you offer it to your guru. And then the guru uses it for basic necessities, and the rest of the money is, Lakshmi, is spent in service of Krishna. So Arjuna is not a Brahmana and Arjuna is a Grihastha. But he's talking about begging, which is not good at all. So in our scriptures, there are various, as I mentioned, do's and don'ts. So for example, only Brahmanas are allowed to chant mantras. Shudras are allowed to perform yajnas, but they are not allowed to chant the mantras during the yajna. There are so many such do's and don'ts that we have to follow. Here, Arjuna is telling Krishna, you know, I'd rather beg than kill great souls. Yes, they may be more greedy than me, Arjuna is saying. That's okay. If they are greedy, what can I do? So let them have the kingdom. And I'm okay begging for a living. Kshatriyas are not allowed to beg. So he's changing his varna just like that. It's not possible. So the next shloka, Arjuna is saying, nor do we know which is better, conquering them or being conquered by them. If we kill the sons of Dhritarashtra, we should not care to live. Yet they are now standing before us on the battlefield. So this is the 5th reason that Arjuna gives as to why he should not fight, which is his dilemma, his indecision about which is better. Is it better that he kill them, or is it better that they conquer the Pandavas? So he's not sure. So what happens in the next shloka? In the next shloka, Arjuna is finally admitting his weakness. So he's telling Krishna, Karpanya dosho pahatasva bhavaha prichami tvam dharma sammuda chetaha yatreyasyan nischitam bruhitan me shishyasteham shadimam tvam prapannam. Up until now, you have seen emotional reactions to the situation from Arjuna. When we experience difficulties, our first inclination is to react emotionally. That is what has happened to Arjuna. Without thinking anything through, the emotions get the better of him. And therefore, he uses all of these emotional reactions and reasons as to why he should not take a particular decision. So here, Arjuna finally admits, he says, now I am confused about my duty and I have lost all composure because of miserly weakness. So Arjuna is finally acknowledging he is confused. He doesn't know what his real duty is. He has become weak. And now Arjuna is going to surrender. In this condition, he's telling Krishna, I am asking you to tell me for certain what is best for me. Now I am your disciple and a soul surrendered unto you. Please instruct me. So the relationship has changed from the mood of friendship to the mood of Guru and Shishya. And who has taken that first step? Arjuna, as a student, has taken that first step, telling Krishna, you please tell me what I need to do, because I'm confused. I really don't know what. So you would think this is the first step of surrender. Surrender implies you don't have all the answers. Surrender implies you have been humbled because of the situation. Surrender also implies that you need help and you want that help. Unless we feel the necessity for that kind of help, we will not go in search of Guru. So Arjuna is in a very difficult situation here. And he's telling Krishna, I am your disciple. I am a soul surrendered unto you. Although Arjuna is using the words that I am surrendering to you, he doesn't surrender until chapter 11. Because he will still ask a lot of questions and seek clarity from Krishna. So how does Lord Krishna respond? That will be in the next shloka. So Arjuna is continuing to say, I can find no means to drive away this grief which is drying up my senses. So he's saying, I'm beset with grief. I will not be able to dispel it even if I win a prosperous, unrivaled kingdom on earth with sovereignty like the demigods in heaven. He's saying, oh Krishna, even if I am very victorious on this battlefield, I don't think I can get rid of this grief that I'm feeling. No amount of external wealth is going to make me happy. Even if you give me wealth equivalent to what the demigods have in heaven. So essentially, Arjuna is saying, this situation is going to leave such a scar on him that he will never be able to get rid of that sorrow of killing. So Sanjaya says, Evam uktva hrishikesham gudakeshah parantapa nayotsya iti govindam uktva tushnim babuvaha. So Sanjaya says, having spoken thus, Arjuna, the chastiser of enemies, told Krishna, Govinda, I shall not fight. And that's it. Arjuna says, I'm not going to fight. And he sits down on the chariot, dejected. He's just done telling Krishna, I'm surrendering to you. I'm ready to hear you. But he has already concluded, I'm not going to fight. So he's silent. Tamuvacha Hrishikesha Prahasanniva Bharata Senayor Ubhayor Madhye Vishidantam Idam Vachaha. So Sanjaya says, O descendant of Bharata, he's talking to Dhritarashtra. At that time, Krishna is smiling. You would think this is a very difficult situation. It's a very somber situation, a very grave situation, and here Krishna is smiling. In the midst of both the armies, spoke the following words to the grief-stricken Arjuna. So what is Krishna going to say? So the Bhagavad Gita begins with Shloka 2.11. One way to look at it is the Bhagavad Gita begins with Shloka 2.11 and ends with 18.66. Another way to look at it is actually the Bhagavad Gita begins in 2.11 and ends in 10.11. Chapter 10, 11 Shloka. That's where the Bhagavad Gita ends. After that 11th Shloka in chapter 10, Krishna simply repeats everything that he has already told Arjuna. So the Lord speaks. Shri Bhagavanuvacha Ashocyan Anvashocastvam Pragyavadamscha Bhashase Gatasuna Gatasumscha Nanushocanti Panditaha. The Lord is telling Arjuna, while speaking learned words, you are mourning for what is not worthy of grief. Those who are wise lament neither for the living nor for the dead. So Krishna is telling Arjuna, I see. So you think you've suddenly become a Brahmana, speaking great Shastra. Actually, you don't know what you're talking about. So Krishna is indirectly telling Arjuna, you're speaking nonsense. And you have been speaking nonsense and I've been listening to you. What you don't realize is that if you were truly considered yourself a Brahmana, the word Brahmana means someone who has realized Brahman, Atma and Paramatma. If you know about Atma and Paramatma, then you would not be grieving like this. But you're pretending to speak like a Brahmana. But actually, you're not a learned Brahmana. Of course, Arjuna is a Nitya Siddha. He's not a Nitya Baddha. But still. So this is the beginning of the Bhagavad Gita. This is the beginning of Sankhya Yoga, where the Lord will begin to talk about the difference between the body and the soul. So Krishna is telling Arjuna, you are lamenting for the body. Body one has to give up. If there is birth, there is going to be death. If there is death, there is going to be birth. So what exactly are you complaining about? So he's going to tell Arjuna, all these people on the battlefield, they're all going to get new bodies. What is the problem? Why are you grieving like this? Battlefield means there has to be death. It's obvious. So now we'll come to the slides. So I wanted to set the context of what happens after Arjuna gives all of the reasons and excuses, including the final one, which is indecision. Which is better, I don't know. So now we'll begin to look at the slides. Some of the slides that we are covering today have already been covered in the Secrets of the Gita Revealed. So I'm not going to spend too much time on them. I will just briefly go over them because topics about the soul, the subtle body, the gross body, we have already covered in the Secrets of Gita Revealed. So let's offer our most humble and respectful obeisances to His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. So, stress, it's a fact of life, unavoidable. But if you know who you are, and if you know what your duties and responsibilities are, you can manage stress in a better way, and you can focus on what is actually ultimately going to give you happiness. Material things can give you temporary happiness, but spiritual things will give you permanent happiness. So the acronym for today is Gita, G for Guru. So you've seen Arjuna take the shelter of Lord Krishna's lotus feet and request Lord Krishna to instruct him. One cannot surrender unless one is feeling helpless. And Arjuna has been put in a very helpless situation by Krishna. So Krishna has to rectify the mistakes of identity. What is the mistaken identity? We also talked about this during the Secrets of Gita Revealed. When you identify with the body alone, you will end up not making the right decisions. So Arjuna is experiencing some amount of amnesia. He has forgotten who he is. And Krishna has to revive his consciousness by establishing his true identity. So Krishna cannot talk philosophy yet without first rectifying the mistake that Arjuna has made of trying to make decisions on the bodily platform. So Krishna is going to talk about both the body and the soul and duties that we have both on the bodily platform as well as on the spiritual platform. And really, how are we going to get that higher taste? Krishna is going to use a few analogies of a tortoise, of rivers going into the ocean, of boats staying steady, being anchored, to explain these concepts. So we said we can only surrender when we feel helpless, when we are confused. Then we can approach a senior devotee and ask for help, ask for recommendations. You and I are not going to be able to go in front of Krishna and say, Krishna, please help. Of course, yes, you can have lots of conversations with Krishna, but reality says that you have to actually get your instructions from Guru. Guru, excuse me. Guru, Sadhu, Shastra. These are the three sources of instructions for us. Guru, Shiksha Guru or Disha Guru. Sadhu. Sadhu means any devotee of Krishna who is senior to you, who is advanced in reading the scriptures. They may not occupy the position of a formal guru. So any Vaishnava is considered a sadhu. Any practitioner is considered a sadhu. Shastra means scriptures. These are the only three sources of help for us: Guru, Sadhu, Shastra. So when you feel helpless or when you're not sure what decision you need to make, this is where you will take shelter. This is where you will seek help, guidance. What is the aspect of surrender? Surrender suggests that you're ready to learn. You're ready to listen. Because if you're not ready to listen and learn, you will try solving problems on your own constantly. Throughout life, you'll try to, think, I know all the answers. I'm a sane person. I'm a mature person, and I can handle this. But humility means you are so weak, you don't know all the answers. So the first sign of being ready to accept a guru is realizing and recognizing that you need help. So throughout the Bhagavad Gita, Prabhupada will talk about bona fide guru, bona fide teacher. It's a very important instruction for us because you cannot accept anybody as a guru. A lot of people will say, I'm a guru. How do you know who's the right guru for you? There are certain criteria that we have to follow to accept a guru. Anybody who says, I'm a guru, you should not believe and follow them. there are certain assessments that we can make that tells you this is a bona fide guru. So you ask me this question, after the class, I will answer the question, how to decide who's a legitimate guru, who's a bona fide guru. Right? So I'm going to skip some slides in the interest of time. Humility is important because without humility, you're not ready to learn. Without humility, you're filled with a lot of pride where you think you know all the answers because you're so strong, you're so accomplished, you have been so successful. You've never failed in the past. Even if you failed, you've tried and succeeded. You've overcome difficulties. All of that is good, but false pride can be very difficult, can lead you to difficult decisions. So Arjuna is experiencing an identity crisis. He does not have a real understanding of who he really is. So Krishna is about to set that in motion. So Krishna begins, Dehinosmin yatha dehe kaumaram yauvanam jara tata dehantara praptehe dheras tatra na muhyati. So Krishna is telling, don't be disturbed. As the embodied soul means the soul is occupying this body called the yantra. Yantra means machine. Just like a driver sits in a vehicle and operates it, the soul is sitting inside this body and operating the body. So Krishna is saying, as the embodied soul continuously passes in this body from boyhood to youth to old age, the soul similarly passes into another body at death. A sober person, Brahmanas are supposed to be sober. A sober person is not bewildered by such a change. So essentially, Krishna is telling Arjuna, you're not sober. You're not a Brahmana. You've been talking all kinds of things, but I'm not buying it. This is the actual truth. Do you know, in the human body, every cell in your body gets replaced once in 7 years. Which means literally once in 7 years, you are getting a new body. And you don't even know it. It's happening without you being aware of it. So every 7 years, every cell in your body is brand new. Literally, you have a new body. So Krishna is saying, why are you so disturbed? Don't you see that the body itself is going through so many changes? The minute you take birth, the clock is ticking. Every day you're dying. Every day you're anticipating death. That's all. Soon the soul has to leave the body and occupy another body. So we said that we have two types of bodies. We have this physical body made up of the 5 material elements: earth, water, fire, air, and ether. At the time of death, you have to give up this physical body. This machine has to be given up. It has to be recycled back to earth. We have another body called the subtle body. The subtle body, the Sukshma Sharira, is made of the mind, intelligence, and false ego. So at the time of death, your mind, intelligence, and false ego will go with the soul to occupy a new body. And at the time of liberation, you have to give up both the gross body and the subtle body, such that only the pure soul is left, the Atma is left, and at that time you achieve liberation. This liberation is breaking the cycle of birth and death. There are 5 different types of liberation, as per Shastra. One type of liberation is called Sayujya Mukti. Sayujya Mukti means you want to merge with the effulgence, with the Brahma Jyoti. That's one kind of liberation. Then another kind of liberation is called Salokya Mukti. Salokya Mukti means at the time of liberation, you take your spiritual body, because even in the spiritual world, you have a body, but it is not made of the 5 gross elements. You have a spiritual form. Salokya means you enter the planets where the Lord resides. That's called Salokya Mukti. So you essentially live in the same planet as the Lord is residing. Sarupya Mukti means you take the form of the Lord. You look just like Vishnu with 4 hands. This is one of the type of muktis where you look like God, but you're not God. Samipya Mukti means here you enter the Lord's planet, but you are like in his inner circle. So you are closely associating with the Lord. You are either his friend or whatever. You're in close proximity to the Lord. That's called Samipya. Another type of the 5th type of mukti is called Sarshti. Sarshti means you have the same opulences as the Lord has, but that does not make you God. In none of these 5 muktis, you become God. So these are the 5 types of liberation. So for this liberation, you have to give up your gross body, you have to give up your subtle body. So I'm not going to go over the details of the soul because we've already covered this in the Secrets of Gita Revealed. But essentially, Krishna is saying the soul is indestructible, it is immortal, it can never be destroyed. So Krishna is asking Arjuna, do you really think you're going to kill the soul? Actually, do you think you are the one who is killing? Krishna says, I am the one who's killing all these people on the battlefield. You are just my instrument. I have already decided to kill them, Krishna says in chapter 11. Whether you do your duty or not, these people will be dead. That's my decision. Krishna says that in chapter 11. So, but here in chapter 2, Krishna is saying, you're not the decision maker here. Soul can never be touched. All these people, you're lamenting about Bhishma and Drona, they will get a new body. And they will continue with their spiritual journey from there. We talked about how the soul is just 1/10,000th the tip of the hair, which means if you pluck your hair and cut the tip of the hair into 100 pieces, and then cut one of those pieces into another 100 pieces, that's the size of the soul. The soul is not visible to the human eye. So Krishna says it cannot be perceived. Krishna says the soul cannot be seen by the physical eyes. It can be perceived consciously. And as we discussed, there are 2 symptoms of the soul. The first symptom of the soul is consciousness. If there is no soul in the body, there is no consciousness. And if there is a soul in the body, there is going to be growth of that body. And remember, we said the body undergoes those 6 changes. It takes birth, it experiences some growth, it maintains itself, it produces some byproducts, it then begins to dwindle and ultimately die. But these 6 changes do not impact the soul whatsoever. And one of the things is that the soul is always seeking Paramatma. The soul is only happy when it is connected to Paramatma. The soul can never be happy when it is divorced from the Lord. When there is no relationship between the Atma and Paramatma, there can be no Ananda. This is a simple fact that Krishna explains in the Bhagavad Gita. That's why Krishna says, you better invite me into your life. Otherwise, you're not going to be happy. So Krishna is saying, don't be bewildered. All of these people, don't worry. I'm going to give them a new body. Based on their karma and their desire, they will take a new body. What's there to worry about? Krishna also talks about reincarnation, which is, if there is death, there has to be birth. If there is birth, there is death. So he's saying, don't complain, Arjuna. It's your duty to fight and kill. So why are you complaining about killing? That is your duty, isn't it? As a Kshatriya, violence is necessary sometimes to uphold dharma. So you cannot avoid your duty because the results are going to be uncomfortable for you. Because that would be called escapism. Avoiding one's duty and responsibility is escapism. One of the Matajis was asking, what should I do? What should I do? I want to chant early in the morning. I want to do all of this, but my family member is saying, why are you doing this now? Why not wait till you get older? You're too young to be doing this. So yes, there'll be a lot of people who may discourage you from doing the right thing. But you should stand firm. Not fight. You should stand firm and explain in a way that is easy for others to digest. So we have the body and we have the soul, which means you have duties on the bodily platform, you have duties on the spiritual side. And Krishna is saying, don't neglect your Sanatana Dharma. The word Sanatana means eternal. There is dharma towards the body, which is called the Swadharma, which is yourself, your family, your society, your nation. We have duties and responsibilities. So if we're living in society, we have to follow the laws of the land. We cannot disregard the laws of the land. But there is also universal laws for the soul. We have to follow those laws too. That is our Nitya Dharma. So what is the soul seeking? We said all of us are searching for happiness. There is material happiness, there is spiritual happiness. Yes, one does need some material happiness because without that, you will not have any hope left. But what Krishna is telling us in the Bhagavad Gita is what is most important is your spiritual happiness. Therefore, I had recommended in the situation that we were talking about, many job offers, how to actually arrive at the decision is to use the spiritual lens. If making that decision is going to reduce time for you on spending, protecting Sanatana Dharma, then you know what decision you should make. So what are the duties for the soul? We said the soul is always seeking Paramatma. The soul is only happy when it is connected to the Supreme Lord. And therefore, the soul is only going to experience happiness when you're chanting, when you're reading, when you are performing devotional service to Krishna. Right? And look at how beautifully Srila Prabhupada has set up this institution to help you do exactly this. Chant, read, serve the deities, serve the other devotees. And your life is sublime. So Krishna is saying, do not neglect this dharma. So if we only take care of the body, it's like taking care of that cage, but disregarding the parrot that is residing within that cage. So if we only take care of this body, we are disregarding the soul that is actually going to continue. Can you imagine how much money we spend taking care of this body? Over our lifetime, how much money would we have spent taking care of our external body? Now just think for a minute. How much money and investment did we make to take care of our soul. We are so absorbed in taking care of our external body, we have completely forgotten that bird in the cage. Actually, it costs nothing to take care of the soul. But the return on investment is going to go beyond this life. Whereas there is zero return on investment if you only take care of the body, because once this body is gone, it's gone. So Krishna is asking Arjuna to think deeply before making decisions. What is important? Yes, the body is important. One has to take care of the body, but one should not neglect the Nitya Dharma, which is making sure that there is adequate food, nourishment, and sustenance for the soul. What is the food for the soul? It's the scriptures. It's chanting, it's meditating on the Lord, it's worshipping the Lord, it's serving Vaishnavas. This is actually nourishment for the soul. Nothing else can nourish the soul. So, our concluding slides. Krishna talks about two types of happiness. There is Sukhi. I think the word Sukhi means happiness in Hindi. The word Ananda and Paramananda indicate something much higher. So happiness is on the bodily platform, but bliss is on the spiritual platform. And you and I, although we are searching for happiness, in reality, actually, we are searching for permanent happiness, which is bliss. But because we are looking for it in the wrong places, we get frustrated. And Krishna is going to logically, analytically explain how we become entrapped. So he's going to tell Arjuna, do you know how desires develop? So we have these five senses. You have your eyes, your ears, your nose, your mouth, and the skin. So these five sensed objects, when they contemplate on the external world, they get attracted to the external world and they become attached to things. And when this attachment develops, it leads to lust. The word lust in Sanskrit, it simply signifies a deep desire for something, anything. It could be wealth, it could be intelligence, it could be beauty, it could be fame. It could also be renunciation. So when we develop this lust and it does not get fulfilled, let's say you have a desire for something and it does not get fulfilled, it leads to anger and frustration. If that lust gets fulfilled, it leads to greed. You want more of it. So like I said, if you're earning 1 crore, tomorrow you want 1.5 crores. You're not happy with 1 crore anymore. If you've been earning 1.5 crores for about a year, you want 2 crores now, or 2.5 crores now. So there's no end to our desire. So which means the minute your desire gets fulfilled, the bar goes up higher. No, I can aspire for more. Why can't I? I'm intelligent, I'm capable, I have the physical strength, I have the mental capacity. Why can't I aspire for more? So this cycle is very vicious, right? So Krishna is saying, Dhyayato Vishayan Pumsah Sangasteshu Pajayate Sangat Sanjayate Kamaha Kamat Krodho Bhijayate. Krishna is saying, while contemplating the objects of the senses, a person develops attachment for them. And from such attachment, lust develops. And from lust, anger arises. So logically, Krishna is explaining the psychological aspect of how we get attracted to things and how we entrap ourselves by doing so. So when you get angry, Krishna further goes on in other shlokas to say, when you're angry, you become bewildered, you become confused. When you become confused, your intelligence is gone. And when you've lost your intelligence, what happens? You make the wrong decisions. And in our society, anger leading to bewilderment, leading to loss of intelligence, leading to indiscriminate actions, meaning it results in crimes, in suicide, and rape, because people have not been taught these basic things in school. You're only taught to chase material desires. There is no institution in India or across the globe that is actually teaching the most important thing, which is spirituality, just how to be self-content. Because everybody cannot be wealthy. Everybody cannot be successful. Success has different meanings for different people. So Krishna is saying, you can actually substitute your lower taste with higher taste. How do you substitute your lower taste with higher taste? Because Krishna also explains to Arjuna in the Bhagavad Gita that a human being cannot be without desires. Because if you didn't have a desire to live, you would not wake up from bed and get up and be motivated to go do the right thing. So desires are an essential aspect of life. But Krishna is only telling Arjuna, be careful of what kind of desires you allow to develop within you. If you allow the right type of desires to develop within you, then you will be protected. Then you will not be agitated. Then you will not be beset by fear and lamentation. So to develop that higher taste, Krishna says you need to discipline your senses. How do you control these five senses that whatever it looks at, it just gets attracted, and before you know it, you're doing wrong things? Maybe smoking cigarettes or drinking liquor or hanging out at bars or hanging out with women. So Krishna is saying, because the senses are weak, we have to regulate. So that you come to the stage where you are mostly undisturbed. How do you regulate your senses? Very simple. We have to chant the holy names of the Lord. We have to read the scriptures every day. We have to go to the temple and offer some seva. We have to serve Vaishnavas. Of course, we have to follow the instructions of Krishna and Guru and Sadhu and Shastra. By doing this, slowly you will develop taste for spirituality. And then you will achieve Ananda or Paramananda. This is actually permanent happiness. So just a few analogies that Krishna uses to drive home the point to Arjuna on how to manage your senses that are just taking you in different directions. So one such analogy Krishna uses is that of a tortoise. Krishna says, Yada samharate chayam kurmonganiva sarvashah indriyani indriyartebhyah tasya prajna pradishtita. Krishna is saying, a person who is able to withdraw his senses from sense objects, as the tortoise draws its limbs within the shell, is firmly fixed in perfect consciousness. So yes, we see one of the slides I covered in the Secrets of Gita Revealed program was there are so many advertisements that are coming at you. Do this, buy this. If you don't do this, you're not good enough. If you don't do this, you're not beautiful. If you don't attend this seminar, you're not intelligent. If you don't attend this training, you cannot be rich. Everything that you're doing is wrong. So Krishna is saying, yes, there's going to be a lot of information coming your way. Don't respond to every single information or temptation that's out there. Sometimes you have to be like a tortoise and simply draw your limbs within and let that shell protect you. What is that shell? Spirituality. It's elevating your consciousness. Once your consciousness is elevated, you will not succumb to temptations. So this is the shloka about higher taste. Vishaya vinivartante niraharasya dehinah rasavarjam rasopyasya param drishtva nivartate. So Krishna is saying, we can try to restrict our senses, but the taste will remain. So let us say I'm addicted to alcohol. I may decide I will not go to bars anymore. I will not hang out with friends who have a habit of drinking. So I may try to attempt to rectify my situation, but my mind has not forgotten liquor. My senses, my mouth has not forgotten the taste of liquor. So Krishna is saying, yes, you will restrict yourself, but you have to remember your desire may still be there. But then, because you have started to restrict yourself, your mind can now go to other types of tastes, which is going to give you the kind of happiness that you're seeking. So that higher taste, Krishna says, can only come with spirituality. Without spirituality, you cannot achieve this kind of higher happiness. So Krishna uses one more analogy. He says, yes, desires are going to be endless. Krishna says, you be like that ocean. So many rivers are flowing into the ocean, but the ocean never breaches its boundary. So Krishna is saying, a person who is not disturbed by the incessant flow of desires that enter like rivers into the ocean, which is ever being filled but is always still, can alone achieve peace, and not the man who strives to satisfy such desires. So Krishna is saying, every time there is a temptation, don't succumb to that temptation. Stay calm, stay relaxed, be like that ocean. So many rivers pouring water constantly, but the ocean is undisturbed. It stays calm. So ultimately, Krishna has defeated Arjuna's arguments that he has put forth. If Arjuna has said, I am compassionate, I love my family members, Krishna is reminding him, your family members anyway have to die, whether they die on this battlefield or otherwise. The soul never dies, so please do not worry for them. They will get a new body. Arjuna says, I cannot enjoy myself after killing everybody. Krishna says, if you lose, you win. If you win, you win. It's actually a very nice shloka. I didn't cover it. Krishna says, let us say you get defeated on this battlefield. Or let's say you have to give up your life on this battlefield. If you die on this battlefield, Arjuna, you're going to go to heaven and enjoy yourself there for whatever good deeds you've done. Let us say you win on the battlefield, then you will enjoy all of the wealth and the running a kingdom. So any which way, it's a win-win situation for you. If you have to give up your life, you're going to go to heaven to enjoy yourself. If you're successful on this battlefield, then you will enjoy the pleasures of your success. So when Arjuna says, yes, but then what about the family? Krishna says, don't you know, the essence of all the Vedas is to serve me first. So Krishna says, me first. Not I, Paramatma first, then everything else. The entire essence of the Vedas is to learn to love Krishna. If everybody has learned to love Krishna, why would there be any destruction? If dharma is upheld, there should be no destruction. Then Arjuna's argument was, but what about all the sins that I have to incur? I have to pay a price for it. Krishna says, if you fight because I'm asking you to fight, there is no sin for you. So don't worry about killing, because you're following my instructions. I am ordering you to fight. Because I have ordered you, and if you follow my instructions, there is no karmic reactions. Which means the lesson for us is that we simply have to follow Krishna's instructions in the Bhagavad Gita. If we follow his instructions, we do not need to worry about karmic reactions. And as Sripad Shankaracharya said, if we read the Bhagavad Gita and study the Bhagavad Gita, follow the instructions of the Acharyas, by the grace of Krishna, all your past karmas will also get wiped away. So you don't have to worry. All you have to do is surrender. And then Arjuna says, I don't know which is better, me conquering them or they conquering me. Krishna says, you conquering them is better because they are sinful, and sinful people have to be killed. And that is the only way the sins can be stopped. If we allow them to live, they will continue their sinful activities. Sinful people need to be put to death because they are creating imbalance in society. Yeah. So the single word summary for today is identity. The chapter title is Sankhya Yoga. It is a summary study of the Bhagavad Gita. If you cannot read the entire Bhagavad Gita, if you read chapter 2, Krishna covers all the yogas in chapter 2, not just Sankhya Yoga. So the acronym for today was Gita, the importance of Guru. The precondition of surrender is courage and humility, knowing that you don't have all the answers. Another precondition of surrender is your eagerness to learn. The idea of self, that we have the physical body, the subtle body, and the soul. Two dharmas, duty towards the body, duty towards the soul, lower taste and higher taste. Lower taste is tastes based on the material platform. Higher taste is based on the spiritual platform. So we'll stop our class here. Vancha kalpadarupyascha kripa sindhubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrindi ki jai. Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki jai.